Well, let's go to our next build along then. This is with Richard Rand's Berkshire Valley kit of an On30 ON3 ore car. It's being built by one of our really talented modelers, Martin Breckfield, MMR. Martin, welcome.
Picking up where we were from last week, we had these pieces to build the hopper body within the frame. We had them all cut out, we had them glued up, the double thickness laminated. Now it's just a matter of putting these little pieces all together inside the frame. Sounds fairly straightforward. And actually it is fairly straightforward. There's a few tricks along the way, nothing too complicated though. Except for this. Honestly, this is the hard part. This is probably the hardest thing to do on this entire build. Freeing these pieces up is the easy part. Putting them together and putting them on the car part where they belong properly is the tricky part. It's the one tricky part of this whole car build. At least it is for me. So you would take out these brace posts, brace caps. This is what holds up the slope sheet of the hopper body. Parts you can just barely tell are there if you look in the end of the car, but they do make the car complete and not, missing these, it looks a little funny. So you have to struggle your way through this. It's a little tricky, but it's not too painful. I say that with only a small scab on my one finger. Here's what you have to do. Okay, let's back up for a second. These are marked. And that's where 4 of these, and there are 8 of them, 4 of these and 4 of these go on the ends at right angles. So what you want to build is something like this. And you want to make sure you get all 4 with the bevels in the same direction. Because if you get it backwards, that's not going to work. So you're going to get these glued together. You want them at 90 degrees, as straight as you can get them. And that can be a little tricky. And this is why working on a sheet of glass becomes handy, because you can slide these together, put a little weight behind the one piece, slide them right together into the little markings. I put just a touch of goo, because you've got end grain, and then take it apart and put it back together with some medium viscosity CA. Get all 4 of these together, and it's pretty stable. It's a little delicate, so you don't want to be like playing handball with it or anything, or dropping on the floor where you can't find it too many times. But once it's together, set it aside, get the second one, put it together, get them together the same way, get them all facing the same direction, get them straight. Here's where it gets more fun. That line you saw, let's go back. That line right there, that's on the outside, it's on the other side of this piece. But that line is now where these get aligned, glued onto the outside of the slope sheet. And you want to be able to just see the line and put it into place. So now you have this really delicate piece, all in alignment. And it turns out these 4 pieces come down and hit the frame of the base of the car. I'll show you how that works in just a slider form. And you can do this, actually you can do this without breaking it back off and shattering these or taking these apart. I didn't break any of them off. You just kind of push it in gently. And actually I test fitted it several times, so I know you can push it in, take it back out without breaking these off. Despite the fact they look like they would snap right off very, very easily. Okay, so first thing though, we got to put the bottom pieces in. There were bevels right here. Remember last week we glued in these 4 bevels in each side. One of these pieces gets, the 2 board piece gets glued in here. Now here's one of the tricks to getting this to work out nicely and neatly and making good seams. If you view down the end of this, you want to actually file off and add a bevel to the bottom and the top. Okay, the instructions say use a file because this is the resin impregnated cardstock cardboard. I just took a drum sander in my Dremel, my battery powered Dremel, and just did it by hand with that. If you've got a steady hand and a good eye, and you're very, very gentle, and you can creep up on things without hurting it, you can use that. Otherwise, use a sanding block or a file, but get this bevel on top and bottom.
It's 7 o'clock.
So then you can glue this in here, and you'll get a nice tight fit at the base, and you'll have a flat, upright facing piece for this next side piece to drop in right on top of it. This drops right in, a little bit of glue on the outside on these frame members. It drops right into place. You get a nice tight seam. And also the benefit of doing this, now the top of this is very, very, very close to flush and requires very little, if any, sanding or filing to get a nice tight fit across the top of the car. So there's your tip for putting this together. Make sure you've got the parts beveled. When it says to sand things and bevel them, do it. It makes everything fit together just a little bit better, or a lot better. So now you have these together. These pieces go in between. Put another bevel across the bottom. You can see how this is sitting here. There's a bevel on underneath of this. So that beveled edge fits right in here. The rest, I took a little bit of bevel on the outside edges of these parts, but it was more of a fit it in, test fit it, make sure it fits nice and snug and smooth. The front edge is across the base here. And then you have to make sure that 1, 2, 3, 4 of these are sitting on the one, whoop, that's not what we wanted. 1, 2, 3, and 4 across here. So you're going to match up a lot of surfaces simultaneously. So you're going to match up the base up here at the top, put a little bevel on there. Then you're going to make sure that these 4 beveled pieces fit across the bottom here. One of the nice things about using a little bit of goo and CA to assemble this, it may be tight. It's not 100% stiff. It'll bend a little. It'll give a little. So you can test fit this and adjust it a little bit 3 or 4 times until you get it where you think it's going to fit just right. You have all the bevels perfectly right. Then you have to get daring and put a little glue on every surface. Well, these 4 surfaces to start with. And then I actually glue these with a very, very fine tip on my CA bottle from the inside through the ends and through the base. I'm not going to try to magically push it into place and smear glue all over everything, but it'll sit down, and it's not terribly difficult, but it does take a little bit of patience. So that's what's the recommendation here is test fit it gently. It will fit between there. If it doesn't fit between there, don't force it. Hit it with a little bit of a sanding block just along the edges until it fits snugly and you can slide it in. If it fits nice and snug, you're good to go. So that's pretty much what it looks like once you have it all assembled. It's fairly close. I actually built the larger car that Berkshire Valley makes. I don't know how much bigger that one is, but it's a little bit bigger car. Same experience. You get it pretty close. And what's nice is this overlapping. You don't see, like on some cars, you don't see any light passing through. So you got a good seal. Okay, so everything's in place, everything's glued. Now you got to put the hatch in the bottom. And there's 2 pieces. And you got to cut them out, laminate them back to back. Oh yeah, and you're going to get the holes to line up because you're going to use them later. So if they're offset, well, then you got to drill them out. But this is pretty easy to do. They're identical. Just line them up with your fingers, a little bit of glue, put some clips on it, and you're good to go again. Okay, so we're just going to glue that hatch part into place. There's your 2 holes again. That's what it looks like from the inside. That's what it looks like from the outside. And then I guess you can, yeah, there's where you can see those 4 supports on each end, and they come down and rest on these 4 beams. I'm going to stop there because That's enough pain and suffering for one night with filing and having angles and geometry and no trigonometry tonight, but it all goes together with a little bit of patience. That's the most challenging part of this entire car, honestly. Other than that, it's a very, very easy build. So like I said last time, and I'll say it again, this is a good novice starter kit. This will have a little challenge, but if it doesn't have a little challenge, then you didn't learn anything anyhow. If it's too easy, it's all gift. There's no learning process. So next week, we'll come back, put all the detail parts on it, all the little goodies, all the little finishing parts, do some painting and some finishing. We'll see you here next Wednesday.
Martin, thank you so very much. I really do appreciate it. Car's really looking nice, I think.
It's a nice kit. It builds a nice little car. You know, the On30 guys should be snapping up half a dozen at a time and assembly lining them out.
Gotcha. Thanks so very much.
Sure.